Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Primetime Crisis Vlogs, the Flash Edition. Okay, yes it's true, I got a haircut, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about The Flash Season 3, Episode 9, The Present. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Okay, so this episode was just okay, but it also kind of sets up a lot of things that I think I'm going to hate moving forward. So we'll get into those things now. I think that we are setting up Caitlin to have yet again another love interest. And that's kind of irritating me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just creating conspiracy theories, but I really think they're going to try to make Caitlin and Julian a thing. They do that scene where Julian, because obviously Julian has now been a part, he's worked with Team Flash now. He knows Team Flash. He knows Barry's the Flash. And I actually like that. I think that he could actually be a cool character to kind of make part of Team Flash. And I'm not against that, but I think that we're going to try to make him and Caitlin a thing. And it's so irritating to see that every season we have to do something new with Caitlin and give her a new love interest. I really thought that the Killer Frost stuff was going to be like her thing to deal with this year. But no, I think that we had that, and now that we've like pushed that problem to the side until it randomly is going to become a problem again in the future, and I bet you that will happen. I think that randomly when they need it to be an issue, all of a sudden she won't be able to use her powers. But I think that she and Julian, I think they're trying to set something up there between the two of them, because Julian's like, oh no, I don't want to come to your Christmas party, I'm leaving, bye. And he leaves, and then Caitlin's like, hey Julian, whatever, and she goes out and talks to him, and then he just walks away. And then he shows up to the Christmas party. And I think that maybe they're kind of try to like set something up there between the two of them. Also, I think they might do a thing where he's like, the reason I kept your secret about her being Killer Frost was because I like her or whatever. Like they're going to do something like that. And that's just my prediction. I could be completely wrong about that. But I think that's a pretty good prediction based on what we've seen from Caitlin's character in the past. And what they seem to really like to do with her. So we have that, and yeah, that's some stuff that worries me. Other thing that worries me is I think that the timeline, or I think that none of the time altering stuff really makes sense by this point. And of course it doesn't. Like, they've really messed with some of the rules of time travel so far to where I'm not really sure what they even are or if there are any. But when Jay and Barry have that discussion after Barry sees Iris die in the future, I think that is a conversation that could work if this was another show where the timeline hadn't been established as it is, and we hadn't already learned that trying to change the future or the past does bad things. Barry, when he, like, so, okay, I don't see how on one hand you can say, it's perfectly fine, now that you've seen the future, to actively try and change that from happening. I don't get how it's okay to say that, but at the same time say, okay, but, you know, it's not okay to go back in time and change, you know, something that's already happened. That's bad. But, you know, changing the future, that's okay. I don't understand this, right? Because if time is this string, how as they've explained it, right? And it's all constant, right? Like the present and the past and all of these things are happening simultaneously, but at different points on this line, right? That's the fourth dimension of time, right? The only dimension that we're trapped in, the only dimension that we can't see past is the fourth dimension, is time. And if all of that is happening, for like time travel for it to make sense as a concept, you have to believe that there is some sort of like higher dimension at which you can look down at the fourth dimension and see all of time laid out simultaneously in a string. And if we have established that this has happened, that means that it is happening and it will happen, and that's what's supposed to happen. So how is that any different than living in the future and then going back and changing the past, right? Barry, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm crazy. There's a lot of weird rules about time travel that have all kind of been set up and simultaneously contradict each other in this show, and including legends as well. So I don't really know. I just don't really know. But that's all fine, whatever. I think that it would have made more sense also to not reveal Julian as being alchemy until this episode. I think that we've done that way too much on these CW shows, where we will reveal the mystery character's identity and we'll just do the audience reveal. We won't reveal it to the characters, we will reveal it to the audience. And I don't understand why the CW seems to really like doing that. Because really, what that does is it just takes the surprise out of the episode where the surprise should exist, and it places that surprise in an episode where it shouldn't, right? So they'll say, oh, I guess we don't really have much going on this week, so let's just reveal that Julian's alchemy at the end, right? And so when we get to this episode and Barry takes off the mask, we already know he's alchemy, so it's like, this is a reveal to Barry, but it's not a reveal to us. And on top of that, we keep doing this thing where every time we see Julian in the lab, he pulls out the alchemy mask, and it's like, in case you forgot, he's alchemy. And I think that's really funny. The way this episode started with Julian on the archaeological expedition, and he finds the Philosopher's Stone, and he takes it, and he just immediately opens it. I think that obviously he was being drawn to it, so it was kind of like I have to find it and open it immediately type of thing. But I think it's funny that in this and in Suicide Squad, you have an archaeologist just acting very unprofessional, where they find an artifact and immediately start messing with it. Oh, I gotta open it and do all this stuff. I think that's funny. That's a thing that happens in a lot of people trying to find hidden artifacts and stuff like that. Oftentimes, they're very not careful with these ancient artifacts that they probably should be very careful with. But obviously, Barry goes to Julian, asking him about the Philosopher's Stone. He's like, oh, look, you wrote this paper on it or whatever. And I'm confused. See, this is where just ignorance. I don't know how the world works when it comes to, if you are suspected of murder in another country, could you really just flee to America and completely escape any sort of reputation that would have followed you because of that? Is that a thing? Because Julian tells the story of, oh, I thought that they were going to blame me for the deaths of my expedition team, and I had to come to America because of that. And I'm just curious as if that is actually, if that's actually a legitimate way of running from your past. Could you literally just leave America if you had, well, it's not fair to say leaving America because he came to America. So could you literally leave another country and just never have to deal with any sort of fallout from being the suspected murderer of a murder victim? I don't know. I'm confused. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. I don't really know. This is more of a question than it is me saying it doesn't make sense. But yeah, HR. I really liked HR this episode because I have something that I always really like in a character is someone who really likes to help other people reach their full potential. That's a big reason why I like the X-Men First Class. It's because we really get that with Xavier. We really get this character who's really all about helping every other person reach their full potential. And it's really inspiring and it's awesome. And I like how HR has that moment in this where obviously he's been training Wally, but now there's that one moment where he's like, remember, dodge and weave or whatever. And then Wally goes in to help Barry fight Savitar. And then after that, Joe has that conversation with HR where he's like, you put my son's life in danger again. And HR's like, yeah, Joe, you're right. But, why do you think I do this? Do you think I'm just doing it because I get something out of it? No, I'm here to help Wally reach his full potential. And if you deny someone their potential, then they will go and they'll seek that potential elsewhere. They'll go other avenues, and you may not like the other avenues that they'll go down. And I really like that. Again, HR, best character on Flash. Yes. Absolutely loved HR this episode. Thought he was great. And I really liked the scene where they give Wally his costume, even though it was kind of, dangerous to run the risk of like having Joe's girlfriend walk in and see that costume. Obviously, she was on the phone, but I mean, they didn't know how long that phone conversation was going to last. She could have walked in and been like, oh, what is that Flash costume? But I thought that it was a good scene where they finally give Wally the costume. His reaction was good, where he like peeks open the box and then he's like, "Oh my god, it's my costume!" I thought that was pretty cool. I'm trying to think. I think that it was cool that we got Jay Garrick in this episode again. I really like Jay Garrick Flash. I think he's really cool, and obviously when I mean Jay Garrick Flash, I mean like real Jay Garrick Flash. I think it's really cool. Although his introduction scene on Earth 3 was so stupid. He like grabs the trickster. I have a bomb. Oh, let me stand here so Barry can save me. Hey, I had that under control. That's what I say when I don't have it under control. I'm just like, realistically, yes, he should have had it under control. Now, the way that they chose to to shoot that scene, it just looked like I'm going to stand here like an idiot and let Barry save me. And whatever. I can't complain. I did like the line from the trickster, but I tricked them, which is so me. I really like that. I thought that was funny. But yeah, so there was that. Like I said, we learned a lot about Julian's character. I did really like seeing Julian show up at the Christmas gathering at the end. I really like that. I don't know why, but when I watch Flash, and I've said this so many times, when I watch Flash, like it turns me into like this like fangirl. I'm like, oh my god, Julian showed up at the Christmas party, yes! Which is kind of funny. But overall, oh, actually, let me talk about one more thing. So Cisco having visions of his brother was okay. Again, I don't really buy that someone as smart as Cisco would fall for that. Like, he's seeing visions of his brother, and his brother's like, you just have to open the stone, and it will, yeah. Like, and I'm like, come on, Cisco. Like, this is such an obvious, this is like a trap. I'm trying to lure you into opening this thing that you know is dangerous. Cisco wouldn't fall for that, even if it was his brother. They kind of have that one scene where they're trying to set up that Cisco's really emotional and extra misses his brother at this time of the year. But that scene was really forced. I didn't like it at all. And Caitlin has that story that me and my dad used to watch movies and it would snow outside. It was magical. That's not really magical. That's kind of like a normal thing. A lot of people do that kind of stuff. Like, I understand, like, oh, it was great. We had so much fun. It was just, I love that time of year. But calling it magical, that's a leap right there, Caitlin. I know she didn't mean that it was literally magical, but I just thought it was funny. She's like, no, we were watching movies and it was snowing, and that's magic. That was magical. I'm trying to think. There wasn't a whole lot in this episode to really dive into. Obviously, Iris died in that future vision that Barry had, so we'll see if that happens. If Iris dies, I won't really care. Iris has just kind of always irritated me, and I've never gotten over the scene from the second episode of season 2 where Iris gives that speech about how Barry needs to trust fake Jay Garrick, but at the time they didn't know it was fake Jay Garrick. That scene where she gives Barry that speech about how he needs to learn to trust people again is so funny by the end of that season, where it turns out, nope, you shouldn't have trusted him. Iris was wrong. I think they've kind of forgotten about that. But ever since that episode, I have just been like, okay, Iris, you're maybe my least favorite character on this show. Yeah, not much to talk about this episode. It wasn't a bad episode. It wasn't a great episode by any means. It was whatever. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about this episode, guys. In the comments, tell me what you think of this episode, and I will read it. And yes, so, yeah, see you next time, guys. Peace out.